Hello, we are live. Welcome in. If you're catching this on a replay, you don't see that red live up there in one of these corners. Make sure you drop a hashtag replay and let you know that you joined us in here in the Point Blank Period podcast. We're so excited about this day. We have some amazing women in the room. And as always, we'll be digging into what got them to the point of amazingness, but specifically what got them to the point of being writers and authors and published authors of books, because Kamisha and I have not done so. And both of us have been pushed by others to do so. So we thought we'd get some people in here who have actually done it. I love the fact that these ladies have worked full time, they have businesses, and they're authors. So I know I hear from a lot of people about I don't have time, and these ladies have somehow squeezed out the time to get it done and get it out there. So I'm excited about that. I'm gonna let Teresa add her 2 cents, and then let Dr. Richie and Miss Graham introduce themselves, and we'll go from there. And if you're watching us live, even on a replay, definitely drop in the comments down there questions, because we are on here and we can answer those questions or put those into our discussion. We want to know, we want to help you, help you to where you want to be in your writing journey, because what I've seen, what I've heard is that you'd be surprised how much your story that you may think is insignificant helps so many people, and so many people can relate to. And one thing I've learned in life is your story and your life lessons weren't really given to you for you. They were given to you for other people, but it can't help them if the only person who knows it is you. Mm-hmm. All right. So what you want to add to that?
Girl, look, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for everybody to jump in on this conversation, but I'm really excited just for myself, because it's so funny. I have a book that's inside of me, right? And I already have the title, have the cover designed and everything. Wrote 2 chapters, but that's where it stopped. So I know it takes a community of people. You can go a lot further when you have a community of people with you and behind you and in front of you that can help propel your way. When I got started in business, one thing that I absolutely did was I made my community podcasts, books, audiobooks, physical books. I made my community those resources, and I solely believe that's how I got to the place that I am now, is surrounding myself and arming myself with other people who have gone before me, and other people that could show me the way. Again, whether it was through reading their books, physical books, audiobooks, and also podcasts, conversations, and all of that. So I'm just super excited. I don't want to delay this any longer, because I got a lot of questions and a lot of things to jump in to ask. So Dr. Richie, please go ahead and introduce yourself. And really, ladies, I really want us to just paint the picture as to who you are, how you got started, and how do you even get to the point. We're not going to talk about the book writing process yet, but how did we get to this point of I had to get this message out of me and into the universe?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, ladies, for having me. I'm so excited to be on Point Blank Period podcast and to be able to share with your audiences what have been my experiences in the book writing journey. So I am CEO of Indigo Life Communications. Indigo Life Communications is a resource hub for creative writing, as well as training and consultation. I'm also the founder of that company as well. And in that company, we have several divisions or a number of programs, one of which is book publishing. And interestingly, I would say, new to the book publishing journey. Not new to publishing, because prior to adding on Indigo Life Publishing, Indigo Life Communications was for the last 10 years a publisher of our own magazine. And so we told stories. We would go into communities primarily in South and Middle Georgia and find individuals who were doing amazing things in areas of business and education, the government sector, faith-based sector, marriage and family, community, you name it, social and civic sectors. So what happened is I was telling the story and situating that story inside of an inclusive community building framework. So we had both of being the nation's premier magazine for inclusive community building. And what prompted the pivot was the idea that it's one thing for me to tell your story, it's another thing for me to empower you to tell your own story. And so that's how we got into book publishing. And so now we are closing our first year as having a professional publishing company under the Indigo Life Communications brand, and we are doing well, getting clients, learning the process of book publishing and understanding what distinguishes book publishing, enabling people to tell their own stories and how that differs from us publishing their stories in a magazine just by interview, let's say. So that is kind of how I got to this place. And I'm excited, as I said, to be here and to answer what questions in your audience may have about the book publishing, how I see myself being different from other publishers and what I offer. I also, just before I wrap up, had for 20 years been a classroom educator in the Miami-Dade County Public School classroom, where I taught English language arts, and my last 3 years creative writing. So I feel like all of it has been a pathway that got me to this place.
Makes perfect sense. Well, I definitely understand the education piece. I was a teacher as well. And it's interesting how you went explain the going from the magazine and interviewing people to actually letting those people or offering the service to the people who you were interviewing, turning that interview into a book. That's a nice way to move from one part of the writing process to another part of the writing process. I like that. That's fair. We're definitely going to talk more about that. Kanisha, I definitely want you to share with everyone your story. So Kanisha and I met at a career fair, a career day for a school. And she was there representing her full-time job. And then she was also talking about being an author. And I was like, honey, can you please come on our podcast? We're going to be talking about authors, but I love, because I talk to so many women who have full-time jobs, who have a business, and then also want to write a book, but the book keeps getting put off because the full-time job and the business. And so I really want to hear how you got to the point, like share with us your background as your full-time job, because it's a real career. Like, you're really busy. And then, any other information that you'd like to share about your journey, your background.
Okay. Thank you both for having me on Point Blank Period podcast. And again, my name is Kanisha Graham. It is, an honor to be here. I'm a registered cardiovascular sonographer, so I specialize in the heart. And on my off days, I like to give back to the community and do career days so that others are informed about becoming a registered cardiovascular sonographer. I'm the founder of the Heart Transformer, and I like to encourage other people through free resources, letting them know things that are available to them that can help them become self-published authors, or just any and every means of way that I can help. Sometimes people fear the cost of things. Cost stops a lot of people from moving forward, but if only they know that there's a lot of free resources available to them, that would kind of like help them move maybe with ease in their journey. So the Heart Transformer just helps to inspire women from different walks of life, different backgrounds, to help them get closer to their goals in life without feeling the pressure of the price. And, feeling the victory of, being able to overcome any challenges, whether that delays with the books, delays in life, which all comes from personal experience, things that I have endured. This walk of life is not easy for any of us, But I think that it is a blessing that when we come through, we're able to help somebody else that's going through some of the things or similar things that we face in life. So I'm a registered cardiovascular sonographer, again, specializing in the heart. And it was through my passion that led me to my purpose to be able to inspire and help others.
I love that explanation. You got us. You're muted on there, Tanisha. I see you talking to us.
No, I said, look, hold on, y'all know I'm still new to this. Hold on 1 minute, y'all. There we go. I'm gonna get us back on there. Oh, okay. All right, bear with me. I'm over here multitasking. I'm taking notes. I'm trying to help produce and all of that. So the message will go forth. But thank you so much, Kanisha. That was definitely a powerful story. One, as far as what you do. So let me tell y'all, like, I don't know how many episodes y'all have seen of the Point Blank Period podcast, but look, we let the spirit lead in here. And one thing that you said that stood out to me is that, you know, you specialize with the heart, right? Mm-hmm. And what I'm learning, so, you know, I'm in my 40s now, and what I'm learning is that you have to have a correct heart posture, whether it's physical and also spiritual as well. And, you know, because energy flows and it flows throughout the heart. And so, you know, the saying, as above, so below, that all it means is what is happening in the spiritual realm is also happening in the physical realm. And you have to understand that. And I wish people would understand how much heart, taking care of yourself, you know, physically, it is just as important as taking care of yourself spiritually. And that's whatever it is that you believe in, right? So again, thank you so much for sharing your stories. Now we are going to get into the meat, okay? So let me ask you this for the both of y'all. So when you were called, and I like to use the word called, when you were called to write this book and to share your story, was it something that you were like, you know what? Like, I guess, where did you go to get your start? What was the first thing that you did to say that I'm going to do this? Like, what was the first thing that you thought to do?
Okay. Go ahead. Well, go ahead, Kanisha.
Well, for me, that wasn't my process. I love to journal. And as I was seeking God for my purpose throughout my journaling, God was like, this is what I would have you to share. So I never knew that I wanted to be an author. When I was just seeking God for direction in my life, I journaled. And I knew I was seeking God for my purpose. And God was like, this is how I would have you to share your story. I never knew how to get started. Just so happened I would sit up on the people who would share different resources. And that have led me to share those resources with other people through like webinars and workshops because somebody shared the tips with me. But I never knew I wanted to write. It was just through my journaling and seeking God for direction that was how he wanted me to share my story.
Oh, nice. Yes.
I love that.
You, Dr. Richie.
Yeah. I don't know that I saw writing in my future either. Even though I taught writing, people told me, you know, as I would do social media posts and people would say, I'm waiting for the first book. And it so happened that I had a social media group, Get Beyond the Hustle, which is my trademark tagline for my business program. And in the program, I was doing videos. And so I do Teachable Tuesday videos. And it dawned on me, wait a minute, these videos are actually chapters of a book. Mm-hmm. And so I transcribed those videos and edited them. And before I knew it, I had 13 chapters. And so that's kind of how I got into that. How I got to my book title is different, but that is how I got to putting those video posts
Mhm.
into book form. And, you'd be surprised. Here it is, Kanisha is talking about her journals turned into a book. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of content that we are sharing that is really book ready. And so if we gather the things that we've shared over the years, then we have a book inside of us or a story inside of us.
Right.
So that was kind of how I got into book writing.
Okay, so I want everybody under the sound of our voices to hear this powerful message, and I think we're only 15 minutes in.
Right.
Is that you can take what you already have and repurpose it. So there's I remember following a guy by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk on social, and his big thing is how to take one piece of content and make it all of these other pieces, right? And so with a book, we call that long form content, because it's something that has chapters upon chapters upon chapters, that you can take those chapters, break them down into blog posts, take those blog posts, break them down into Facebook and Instagram posts, take those and break them down into what used to be Twitter, but now X, messages, and just all those different bite-sized pieces. Is looking at the bigger piece and breaking it down. What I love about these ladies is that they took the smaller pieces, they took things that they had already been naturally doing and making it into the larger piece. So it can go both ways. And I'm so glad that, and we didn't know that both of your stories were going to be aligned in this way, right? But I'm thankful that it is. And so, even with that, so now we got the point to where, okay, we're like, yes, we're going to go ahead and get this. We're going to make these shorter pieces of content into the longer form book. Then what, Dr. Richie? Then what? What did you? So you had the 13. What did you say? 13 chapters.
Yeah, 13 chapters.
Okay,
right?
You had 13 chapters written. You got it all down. Then did you have them? How did you? So I know you said you had them transcribed, but what did you do from that point?
I started, of course, reading them, because when we're speaking, and then you transfer that information, or how that information might translate into written form is not always verbatim. So you do have to go in and do some editing. And that was what I did. Prior to my getting any other editors involved, I wanted to make sure that my message was clear. And I tend to speak in highly conceptual terms. So I knew that I needed to add examples. I needed to add real life scenarios. I knew that I needed to add some figurative language, all to make the message more clear. And I knew that I was not speaking to the academicians. I wanted my manuscript to be comprehensible by the everyday person. So I did a lot of that. I wanted it in my own voice, kind of sister girl type. I wanted it to be as if they were talking to a friend or listening to a friend. So I took all of those things that I wanted to happen in the book, and I made it happen by way of my first review of it. So as a tip, a transcription company, by the way, that I use is Temi, TEMI.com. And that was the service that I used to be able to get my manuscript or get those videos transcribed. And you can do that even if you're speaking in your cell phone, the voice recorder on your cell phone. Take that, get it transcribed. So that was the first step for me, was to make sure that the message was clear, that I had the right tone, that I was speaking to the audience that my message was intended, that I had, as I said, whatever were the tools that was necessary to make the message clear. That was what I did. And that wasn't any sophisticated tool. That was my just reading it and going through the text and making sure, because the book was speaking about business, making sure that it be understood by the everyday layperson.
So I like that. I like the taking, I think that's important because when I've heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, and I've also done what he said, and people will say like, we see you everywhere. And I'm like, yeah, I'm everywhere, but that was only, one piece of content. But I think the important thing is when you're taking, which is what I'm taking away what you said, Dr. Richard, when you're taking that content, you still have to adjust it to where you're fixing it to go. So for example, if we do this podcast right here and it's currently live on Facebook and it's live on our YouTube, if we want to take a piece and put it on Instagram, we have to make it fit the Instagram audience, right?
Absolutely. Right.
I think what's important what you said is like, yes, I took this information, these videos that I already done, and made them in the chapters, but the audience that I wanted to read this book, I had to adjust it for maybe the audience I was talking to when I was doing the video. And I think that's really important when they're transcribing information or thinking about taking one content and using it somewhere else. The other thing that stood out to me, what you said, is using the program. I wrote down Teamy, but we're in the time, and I don't know how long ago you did yours, but we're in a time where AI allows it so much easier to take content from anywhere, like a YouTube or content from from your phone where you're just talking, get an idea, and you're just talking into it, or from where Kanisha may have been physically writing in a journal. You can tell us about that, writing in a journal that was laying beside her bed, but then taking that and turning it into a Word document that then could be turned into a book. So I love, you gave so many, I'm not like, I gotta stop taking notes. And I'm gonna just go back and watch the replay because you gave a step by step of how to turn something into a book.
Chrissy, the only thing, there's so many there's arguments about whether you can copyright AI developed content, and I'm while I'm not against AI, I actually use it for other things.
Right.
In terms of publishing a book and then owning the copyright, because that's important to me.
Right.
I've been a little mindful of how much I would encourage people to use AI. Now, I hadn't done a lot of research on it, but I know that there's an argument. One side, argues that it's fine, you can do it. AI will even say you can do it, but of course they encourage you to cite them as a resource. But I'm just not sure. So personally, I don't encourage it for book writing.
And I want to actually hold that point to the AI, because I want to, in my mind, I was thinking about bringing that on towards like the end, but that is very good because there are some things, and like you said, you can use it, but in the way that it doesn't necessarily have to write the book, but it can help you organize and things like that. So I definitely want to talk about that.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes. All right, Kanisha, let us know. So after you got yours, now was yours a physical journal or an actual, was it digital already?
So my book, I just wrote in a physical blank journey along my journey. So it was just a physical empty book.
So you took, so I'm imagining you had these journals and you're like, okay, so what did you do? How did you go from the journals to getting it to like digital, and like how did that process go?
So as I was seeking earlier, as I mentioned, like how I was seeking God for my purpose, he revealed to me that this was what he would have me to share to others as a form of sharing my story. And I have to admit, like, it came with discouragement. As immediately once I realized, like, God said, like, this is how I would have you to share your story, doubt came in. People are not going to support you. So you're going to have those mental thoughts that come in your head. And I paused things. I just paused it because I didn't want to deal with that. And I was like, okay. And so eventually I kind of got out of that fog and I was like, okay, let me go ahead and just at least type them up.
Okay. So wait. How long was the eventually?
So I don't have like a time frame, but I probably would say maybe like maybe 2 months had went by.
Okay, so you didn't let 2 years and years and years go by.
No.
Your eventually was pretty quick.
Yeah, mine eventually was pretty quick. It was probably like 2 months of kind of like kind of wrestling with should I move forward with it, and I kind of got busy because life be life, and then just sometimes you just get busy with life, and so that eventually came, and I was like, okay, well, at least let me type them up. And so I typed up the prayers, and I got busy again, because sometimes doubt and fear don't just come in one time and be done with you. Sometimes it's a constantly cycle of things happening. And then I found myself wrestling with some things, and God spoke to me, and he was like, shame on you to have written these prayers up and something was to happen to you and they left on your computer. I was like, okay, God. So after I started to be more active, it was just as if he started lining up people to help me get it done, because I was the one who feared like this is gonna cost a lot. I was ended up hearing stories about people that got taken advantage of from using publishers where they didn't own their book 100%, and the royalty, the people that published their book were making more off the book than they were making. And so God kind of led me to be connected to people that use Fiverr. And so it was through Fiverr that it was very affordable for me to have editors to edit my book and for people to format my book. And in my workshop and in my webinar, I share those contacts with people, because to get my book published with an error was still under $100. So I had my book published and edited, and within a short period of time, it was uploaded onto Amazon. And so I'm an independent author, a self-published author. I did everything on my own, and I again teach others how to do the exact same thing, that they can become local authors and they don't have to spend a lot of money if they don't want to. And I think that as we all know, God meets us where we are. And I felt like, he knew that I had been like burnt before, not really on the author side of things, but he knew that, she desired to get her story out. So I'm just going to place in her path ways where she don't have to break the bank to get this done, so that it can be a blessing to others. And I believe someone mentioned on the line earlier, like you have that one content and you can do so much with it. And I just feel like with having this one thing, I can share it in so many different ways to be able to help others become self-published authors also. So just know that it just wasn't no peachy and cream type of ride, that there was some challenges along the way. But I just believe that when God puts you on a task, he prepares you for it. You just have to really trust the process. And 25 prayers that changed my life came through God leading me and guiding me to the resources that he would have me to use, so that this project could be a success and a blessing to others.
That's beautiful.
I love that. I love that. And 2 months, that's a good time, because there's like Tamisha said, there's people who wait 2 years, take a break for 2 years, come back 4 years later. So that's definitely a testament. And I'm glad Tamisha asked that, like how much time, because sometimes we assume it's longer, or we're assuming it's short. So just knowing that in two month time period. And I think the biggest thing is getting it out there. Like there are definitely different ways to do it. I know Dr. Richie can tell her process of doing it, which is going to be different than your process of doing it. But at the end of the day, we both have books published, right? And start somewhere. So you may do it your way to start, which I like, because I haven't done it. So that would be a place for me to start. And then, people do 5 or 6 or 7 books, and the process starts looking different as you go forward. But the most important thing is working with where you are and getting it done. I love, and that's works with so many things in life, period. But it still applies to being an author and getting your book out there. Now, I know you mentioned it opening up like different doors for you. So now you've gotten your book out there. What are some doors that it has opened up for you that maybe prior, if you didn't have the book, that door may not have been open for you?
With me, I feel like it opened up doors as far as for me to be able to help others. Like I'm always was helping other people, but I feel like now I'm able to bring value to people. So now I'm able to do webinars on Zoom. I'm able to do workshops in different churches that would allow their congregations to let this be known that if there's any members that would like to be self-published authors, come here. We're having this workshop from, this time frame and on this particular day. So I just think that it just have opened up a lot of different doors for people, no matter your race, no matter your gender, that would like to be self-published authors to come out and get this knowledge. Since I haven't, maybe I started helping others, I think in December, because as the new year came in, I didn't want people to be like, okay, this is a new year resolution. I'm like, why not be prepared for the new year? So I started doing the workshop in December, and I want to say there's about 6 people already that have self-published books that's available on Amazon.
Oh yeah, blessing. That is a blessing. Dr. Ritchie, actually, I love the question, Chrissy. So I want to throw that to Dr. Ritchie as well. What doors has opened up since you've published your book?
As well, one is bulk sales.
Money, right?
Right, absolutely. And then, of course, going through the process, the opportunity to launch a publishing company is another door that's been open. Also, speaking engagements is an opportunity. And interestingly, Kanisha, you talked about writing your journals. I also published some journals. It's actually 3 collections of journals: Gratitude Journal, Affirmation Journal, and My Best Life Journal. And these are guided journals. So even though, so it's not just lined, a book with empty lines. These are original quotes, and they're activity based. And what that has also done, as an example, when I thought about what is it that this gratitude journal is going to provide the reader, and what I noticed is that gratitude is a way or an approach to resolving personal conflict. And so what I did was I took the journal and created a workshop around it to be able to teach people how to resolve personal conflict through gratitude. So that's the title of the workshop: Gratitude, a unique approach to resolving personal conflict. When I looked at the affirmation journals, I said, hey, this is an opportunity that people can overcome imposter syndrome and build self-confidence. So that's the title of that workshop: Affirmation, a unique approach to overcoming imposter syndrome and developing self-confidence. So those are things that the writing does, things that writing does. It makes you even more creative. The more you write, the more creative you become. Not only in terms of how you repurpose the content, but how do you use that content to empower yourself? And then how do you use that content to empower communities? So just in a nutshell, it has provided speaking opportunities, it's provided bulk sales, and again, the opportunity that it provides to empower others by giving them the tools to be able to do what I do, as it relates to their own stories.
Yes, you know what? And so we have a question in the audience, and I want to go ahead and get to this. And it's so interesting that both of you have taken this journey, right? And you repurposed your journey, and now you're able to help other people on their journey to do the same thing. And what I say is that, there's almost 8 billion people on this planet, right? We could stand to have another few million publishers, millions of books, authors. Like, we have got to get out of this mentality of I found the secret to success. I found the I have my secret sauce, and I'm just going to keep it within myself and not share how to do it and not pass this on, especially in our community, being Black, being women. We need to be sharing it to the masses and making it not affordable, but making it accessible to the masses, because we need more. We're already coming from behind, being a woman and being Black. We're coming from what can be considered behind. So, to be able to pass the baton to the youth, to be able to pass the baton to other women and other people that look like us, like, we have to get this message. So I love the fact that y'all didn't stop with just, I figured out how to write my book. I figured out how to publish it. And then that's it. Everybody else can figure it out how they figure it out. Right. So, like I said, I love the fact that you both have workshops and courses and classes, but if you could just give us a little piece, like I said, English, I put this question back up here. She said, I'd love to learn how to self-publish and or open a publishing company. That's the goal for my third project. So, with that being said, we're going to definitely share where your courses and your resources are. But what can you encourage her right now to do as far as how to get moving into that direction of whether it's self-publishing or opening her own publishing company?
When it comes to self-publishing, I believe, as we have already mentioned, it's like start with what you have. If you got something now, don't be afraid to start with what you have. Check out Tiger.
Well, let's back up. Let's back into this verse. What is self-publishing? Just because I know it may sound like it's like common knowledge, but what is self-publishing? What does that really look like?
Self-publishing is you not going through a publishing company. In my terms, you taking your content, you have it edited and you have it formatted and you upload it on Amazon. You take your manuscript and you are the author of it and you can upload it onto Amazon. Self-published means that you pretty much have done, if not all the work, majority of the work.
Okay. And then if you go with a publisher, all you really are doing is giving them the manuscript and then they're doing what, Miss Dr. Alicia?
Well, to back up a little bit, my company actually helps. I'm a publishing company, but my focus is really to help people publish their own stories as self-publishers. While I do the editing for them, they own, at the end of the day, they own all of the rights. However, there are certain negotiations that we make in the process. I'm listed as publisher of their work, but they self-publish in the sense that I do. So I have sort of a hybrid model. I work with individuals who are interested in publishing their work, which means for me, at the end of the day, they own the work. I have worked with them or supported them through the journey, but at the end of the day, they own all of the rights to their work. And I want that for them. Right. That's part of the empowerment piece for me, is so that people own their work. And Kanisha, and when you mentioned about people getting burned because they are not owning the rights to their work, and many times they go in not understanding that. So for me, self-publishing is making sure that at the end of the day, for me, that it is not that I do not own any of the rights to their work at the end of the day. That's kind of the hybrid model that I use. I support them through the journey, but I don't own the rights at the end.
So look, that brings me to another question.
Well, the rights to the royalties.
Well, so for the companies, the publishing companies who do, I guess, negotiate and say that they own a particular right to your work, I guess I'm trying to wrap my mind around why is that done? Like, just because they didn't want to charge an upfront fee, or like what is the reason for them to be able to do that?
That is an option that I have. An individual may come not being able to afford to pay the cost for publishing their books out up front.
Mm-hmm.
And so to protect myself, I will allow them to pay me through their royalties. In other words, I receive the royalties until that cost is paid, and then I turn it over to them. So each publisher negotiates differently. The terms of the contract vary from publisher to publisher. But I like to think that if you get where you're supposed to be, what you need, God will provide for you. So in the case of Kanisha, she got on the journey, and what she needed, God provided that. There are people who, say, look, I don't want anything to do with the publishing. I don't want to manage the process at all. I want you to do everything.
Right.
And so then you have publishers who are available to do that. You have people who say, but I want the rights to my stuff. There are publishers who will negotiate along those lines. So it just depends on what your interests are and what resources you have to begin, whether it's the money to pay for it outright. And all of it is relative. What's expensive for one person may not be for the next. And so, that's kind of how I'd like people to understand that as you mentioned, just depending on what the person's needs are, you can find somebody to support that, but know what it is know what are the publishing options going in, so you don't get burned.
Right.
Yeah. I think I like how you broke that down, and it sounds like there's no right or wrong way to do it. It just depends on your situation. I look at it as like the difference between my husband and I. I work to pay people. There are just certain things I just don't want to do, right? And so I'd rather work my business, which I like doing, to be able to afford to pay for people to do things for me that I don't like doing, right? And then my husband on the other end is like, I don't care if it takes me 3 months. I'm not paying nobody to do this for me. I'm going to do it myself, right?
But you're either going to pay time or money.
Exactly. I'm going to pay time or money. Me, I like to pay money. He would like to pay in his time. And so it's not like the same thing with writing and publishing your book. It's not that one way is better than the other. It's just a preference. It's based on where you are in life and what you want to spend it for. Because it does. Whereas Kanisha took the book and did it all from beginning to end, I like the option of, listen, you do it all, and then my book sales will go towards paying off what you did, and then once you're paid off, then it's all mine. Yeah. More of my route that I would take, but I know there's many people, like if my husband write a book, he like, they ain't getting nothing. If it take me 1 year to do it all myself, I'm just gonna do it all myself.
Right.
So it sounds, I'm taking away that it's not that one process is better than the other one, but no matter which process you take, you have to do your homework because you don't want to be taken advantage of.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, speaking of homework, what are some of the questions that people need to go in asking these publishing companies? Because it's so funny. So it sounds like, how, well, one, I guess since we're talking about books, we should be assuming that people read, right? But they don't. But so I'm sure that when you go to contract, you're probably so excited about the fact that you're getting ready to write this book. You're not reading the fine print. And, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are not even bringing up the points that you need to be reading in the fine print and explaining what these terms and these things really mean. So, due to the fact that you both have either known people that have been burnt or burned in other situations, what are some of the things that you should ask your publisher for, or about, to see if this is the actual a good person for you?
One thing for me would be deliverables. What is it? The expectations, like having clear expectations of the publisher, and that's going to require some homework. To be able to compare what one publisher provides over and against another publisher. So having an understanding of what are the deliverables that the publisher is providing. So in some instances, it may be past performance. You treat the publisher, you treat the publisher, or you interact with the publisher in a way that perhaps an employer would an employee. So think about some of the questions that an employer might ask an employee about past performances. Do you have, good question. What receipts do you have? I like the way, I forget her name, said that she has 6 books. Thank you. That Kanisha has, Kanisha has 6 books that are already on Amazon. So she's got receipts to prove that she knows what she's doing. So those would be 2 questions for me: getting a clear understanding of what the deliverables are. That's one. So you're going to give me what by when? That's one question. Number 2, a justification of costs. So that might include, can you tell me why this is costing? Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Can you tell me why I'm having to pay this much when I look at other publishers over here offering the same thing for this much? So an outline of, costs and a rationale for those costs. And I think a third thing, I'm sorry, I got a notification that somebody's watching.
Okay.
Right. A third thing might be time, right? And that's why I say deliver what by when. So that's always important because, depending on what you need, you might need that publication out by a certain time. So being able to understand, why is it taking this long, or how is it that you can produce in such a short amount of time? If you tell me I can get your book published in 2 weeks, I want to know how. What's being left out? If you tell me it's going to take me a year, I want to know, what are you doing? That it's taking you that long. So again, having an understanding of what you need, getting a clear understanding of those costs and a rationale for the cost. So it means you're going to have to do some homework.
Right. Okay.
And with Kanisha, I know that you went the route of like Fiverr. Was there a vetting process? Because like you can go to Fiverr and type in something and you get 1,000 people that come up. Like, how was it a referral? Did someone use the people that you used on Fiverr, or how did you come to determine like this is a good person to work with for my needs?
No, I had no referrals. I read the reviews, and I knew that my book is a prayer journal. So I knew that it didn't require a lot of editing, but I did go with some 5-star people on Fiverr. And so for me, it was reading their books, reading how soon they would be able to turn it back around to me, them giving me the opportunity to review before approving the work. So I did like that. Like if it was something I wasn't happy with, they would go back and make changes up to 3 times. So I was happy that they allowed me the opportunity to review the content, say, hey, can you fix this sentence? So they gave up to like 3 of those reviewing before approving any edited work. So, and that was with formatting also, like they gave you up to 3 attempts to be happy with the work before just moving on. So if you're going to use Fiverr, I highly recommend reading the reviews, because I did find that to be very helpful when making my selection, not just looking at the prices. One thing that Fiverr does is that you not only work with people in the US, you work with people outside of the US. So the cost varies. So what may be expensive to have done here in the States may be more affordable if you have like somebody in Nigeria or Africa. Well, those are the same, but Nigeria and other places outside of the US doing your work, you may find that the fees are more affordable for you because of the cost of living outside of the US. So Fiverr has that up under one umbrella, so you're not just limited to people in the US to do your work. And again, check the reviews. They were in their biography. They'll let you know everything you need to know before selecting them. And I found that they were committed to what they said they would do. They guaranteed that they would give me up to 3 attempts. They guaranteed that they would have my book turned around in 5 days or something like that. Again, it depends on how many words are in your book, probably what on the turnaround time. But I found that she was right on point with her turnaround time. He was right on point with his turnaround time. And if I needed to have the book edited, they was okay with me saying, "Hey, can you correct this?" with no problem. So I found that to be very helpful. Checking the reviews and seeing if they give you any type of options for like reviewing it for no additional charge.
Right. I love that. And I'm all for reviews, but I'm even more for referrals. And so it sounds like, since you found these amazing people that have gotten you to where you needed to get to, you're able to refer them same people to other people as well. And so, like I said, being in the marketing industry, the marketing industry, I know there are ways around like making your reviews or getting people to pay people to give you reviews. So for me, it's that referral. If I know somebody who has used them, I'm all for it. You know what I'm saying? So I love the fact that you've kind of established some key people that you like to work with and you trust to work with. And now you can provide those as a resource as well. So let's get into this. So the cost of the price that you're going to charge for your book, how did you determine that? Because for me, it seems like it's such of course the cost that you cost to produce it, that's like a one-time cost, right? Or a per book cost. But above that, how did you determine how much you were going to charge for it?
For me, I was more so led by God with my fee, because I personally feel as though like God provides everything that I need, and it's just my personal opinion that if you're going to be sharing inspirational message, that should not make people have to go rob the bank or go broke for. So my fee, and it wasn't that I don't feel like this book is not powerful. Again, it was the fee that God led me to put the price on my book. This was the price that he gave me to encourage other people. Sometimes, encouragement comes to so many probably at no price, but like the fee that he gave me, I felt like it definitely is affordable, so that if this was something that you wanted, you would pick up, and if you don't want it, you're not going to pick up. But I just felt at the end of the day, after he had gave me the price, I was just thinking like, encouragement and words of advice shouldn't come, with this high overhead to encourage somebody else. As you guys had mentioned earlier, like this secret sauce,
Right.
being able to pray to God, on your own doesn't come with a fee, it's just something that you just have to do. And I think my journaling, it shouldn't be very expensive for people to do. These are just my prayers that help me, that may help you gather your words so that you can pray unto God and he gives you the direction for your life.
Nice. I love it. What about you, Dr. Richie?
Yeah, I'm smiling because mine was a little bit different. Interestingly, I would say that I was directed by God as well. For me, it became the moment when I was inspired to put a demand on the quality of work that I was providing. Because prior to that, I was the contractor who would undercharge for everything. And some of it was out of fear, to be quite honest. What I found was that pricing will sometimes help you identify your clients. That often people are pitching to the wrong clients. And those are the people that will sometimes argue against the price you're charging. And so if I am charging $50 for a book, which I did, it was $49.99. If I'm charging that and a person says, that's too much money, the person who says that's too much money is likely the person I'm not talking to. So even if the book was $9.99, and the person who I'm not talking to is reading it, it won't have the same impact. It's going to be left on the shelf anyway. And so at that moment, I said, you know what? I'm not going to be afraid to charge what I believe God is directing me to charge, for fear that someone won't purchase the book. I recall my mom saying, Alicia, $49.99. Michelle Obama didn't charge that for her book. And I said, Mama, Michelle Obama tells stories.
Ooh.
She's selling stories. I'm selling strategies. That's a different cost.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, it was business principles for everyday life. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that God helped me to understand is a mark of one's preparedness for business ownership is their willingness to invest in themselves.
Right.
And so if a person is not willing to invest $49.99 in them, if they're not willing to pour that into themselves, I don't know how ready they are. This is the relationship I got with God. This is the conversation we had.
Right.
Then how ready are they for business ownership, which is going to require a whole lot more money. And when that book is going to give them strategies to be able to save them from pitfalls that most business owners, find themselves in a space of, then go ahead and do it. And you know what happened? Now, I read somewhere that the average person book sales in a lifetime, I don't know how true this is, I got to do the research on it, is 200 copies of the book. Mm-hmm. Right?
That actually seems pretty accurate, though, when you're talking about the average, right? Because you have both sides of the spectrum, but even when it comes to like starting the podcast and how many episodes people actually get through. So I can see 200 being a good average.
And I'm going to do the research to be able to
back it up.
Right. Yeah, to be able to speak to that. But when I got in the first couple of months, when I got 412 copies of the books, I was talking to somebody, whether I was talking to the person who just wanted to support me because they wanted to hear my story, or whether I was talking to the person who knew that what I published, there'd be value in it. People bought. And so I understand your position, Kanisha. I was at a different place because out of fear, I would not charge people the value of what something is, at least as I understood God to be revealing to me what that value was. Now, I have given away free copies of the book, right? And in some cases, people go on Amazon, they purchase it. And, so you have, different ends of the spectrum. But for me, it was that. It was, are you ready? Are you ready for this place that I'm taking you in business? Are you ready to assess a value that will command the worth of the work? Are you ready to launch into big boy territory? Yes. I had to ask myself and sit with God in all those questions. And when I got some clarity and got some feel good about it, and when I say feel good, I mean comfortable in my spirit that this was a God move. ISBN number 49.99. I was not afraid to do it. And people have bought. Some are still buying. Opportunities have come out of that. So, it just depends on where an individual is, in terms of what they charge for that book and what God is saying to them, obviously.
Right.
Or how they understand God to be speaking to them, or what they feel like their purpose is, or who's the audience they're talking to. Yeah. That kind of thing. Where their book will land. If it's a textbook, in a college university is not going to be $10 typically. Right. So it depends on where that book is going to land and what you can command for it.
Yep. I definitely hear that it depends on the audience, you know, like if your purpose is for business owners, I know it's part of a business owner when it's time to price a program or a system, you think to yourself, like, if they pay $1,000, I should be able to guarantee them they're going to make 10 times what they paid for it, right? So if I'm charging you $1,000, then I'm saying that when you walk away from this, you'll be able to make 10,000 off the information I've given you. And so I think that's the same thing as a book that you're writing. It's like if you're charging them $50, in your case, you're teaching a business owner something, you know, so it makes sense that they're going to pay more for that type of book. Whereas a journal, most people aren't paying $50 for a journal.
and let me say this, because I want this, since this is on record, that's no shade to our former First Lady. I love me some Michelle Obama, and you know, I was just sharing that to make the point about the pricing.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I don't want anybody to walk away thinking she was talking about Michelle Obama. I was not.
I think the wrong people walk away with that, and the right people understood exactly the context in which you were saying it. And I think that goes to book writing as well, is that when you're writing a book, there are going to be people who are not your audience who are going to feel some kind of way about what you put in it, how you priced it, how you decided to post it to be sold. But the people, your audience, the price point will be right for. Your audience, how you decide to sell it, whether it's in the back of your trunk or if it's on Amazon, it's going to be the right place for them to get it. So I think it's all about your audience and who you're talking to, who you're talking
right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so let me ask you this, because I think, well, maybe Kanisha, you can answer this as far as, and I'm sure Dr. Richie, you may have some thoughts on it as well. When it comes to like putting your personal information in a book where it's going to impact other people who was a part of that story, right? And whether it was, most of the time, I guess people would think about this if it was something very personal where it's like you're being vulnerable when you're sharing it because something that we can be considered bad has happened, or you know, whatever. How do you help people kind of overcome, or what advice do you give people to help them get the parts of their story out that is very vulnerable for them and may impact other people? Like, do you have any words of encouragement or tips that they should think about as they're going that direction of sharing a personal story? That, because I'm thinking about your prayers, Kanisha, and I'm like, you know what? If people read some of my prayers, baby, you know, the people who I'm praying about and praying for, they feel a certain type of way because I'm sharing it, but it's a part of my story. So can you kind of give us some tips on that?
Well, I mean, you have to, again, be led how God would have you to share. Vulnerability is relatable. And that's one thing that many other readers have shared with me, is just how relatable the prayers were. I won't say like I shared anything that was too deep, because that wasn't like what God had led me to share. But the things that I did share, I felt like people could relate to, in regards to seeking God, in regards to careers. I talked about that. Seeking God in regards to finding your purpose, letting people know what it felt like when I discovered God to be a way maker, how He provides for me, how He helped me when I've been robbed twice at gunpoint, and just endurance and being able to give my will over to Him so that His will could be done, just to name a few. So I just think that those are things that so many can relate to, because in life we want to be in control. In life we feel like things should have already have happened by now, and it was like, even sometimes when we quick to say a delay is not a denial, which is so true. But God spoke to me and He was like, Kanisha, who time was the delay on? Because I'm always on time. So I just find myself kind of like looking at things being delayed, like I look at that differently when God spoke to me, and he was just like, if it was a delay, whose time frame was it on, really, Kanisha? Because I'm always on time. So I just feel like you have to be led by God when you share those deeper and darker things, because everybody will have an audience. Right. But I do feel like being vulnerable helps you to be relatable to your audience, and your audience that you may not know you had or have, but just by being vulnerable and being relatable to people. And one thing about my prayers that I feel like is so different from AI. AI, you can say, give me a viral prayer. But when I realized, I'm like, dog, that's how they get these prayers so quick. But God like spoke to me and he said, Kanisha, no, yours is from the heart. This is what you have actually experienced. And this sometimes when you pray or you read people's material that have came from the heart, you have a way of connecting with that. And so I feel like with AI and some of these other things that give you these contexts in microseconds, is how people want things in life. You can't, everything ain't gonna come that quick. I have that little chat where I can tell AI to do something and it do, and it's done. But that's not how life is. Life is not perfect, done. It don't work like that. You have to go through things in life to be able to help other people. And AI, it just kind of make us just feel like it's easy peasy, done. Right. But that's not how life is. But just to answer your questions, it was just, being transparent and being willing. And that was another thing too. Like when you be vulnerable and you be transparent, that's when that doubt was coming in. And that's when that fear was coming in, because you're sharing with other people some of the things that you have shared unto God. But it was kind of through that have allowed other people to be able to express themselves in that manner unto God, knowing that there's nothing too hard for him, knowing that he understands the shortcomings in our life and that nobody is perfect, and being able to cast that and not feel judged when we talk to him. So when you have this journal, it's just your way of talking to God. There may be some things that you feel so ashamed of that you can't voice, but you can journal it, because God knows the things that we write. He knows our thoughts. He knows everything about us. So I just feel like those people that can't utter those painful things that they want to say, but if you give them a pen, they can write it.
Yes. Oh my God. Let me tell you, you didn't tell me we was going to go all into the
right. That was beautiful.
I love it. What about you, Dr. Richie, when it comes to having people that come to you? Because I don't know how vulnerable you get in your book as far as, your own experiences. I'm sure you had to put a lot of that in there. But when you have others that come to you and they're like, I got this story, but it's got some people that, are in it, and I'm just trying to figure out how to be respectful of them, but get my story out.
I would say, one, seek legal counsel. Because what I would not want is for a person to publish a book under my name and they end up in court and I'm there, having some responsibility as the publisher of that book. So if there are other people do get around it, they write fiction. It's still their story. And in some cases, they'll write based on a true story. But just to be having every person's name involved in your story and writing in ways that can incriminate other people, and it then could be construed as slander. We need to seek legal counsel about how we use other people's names in our manuscript. So I would definitely encourage that.
You just actually said something. You said, what, they write fiction. It is so funny because I don't remember the last time I wrote or read a book that wasn't, something like a self-help book or business book and stuff like that. So when you said that, I was like, you know what? I should go read a fiction book at some time.
Yeah.
But it makes absolute sense because, like you said, just based on a true story, and just, there are different words that you can use and different things that you can say that will let the audience know that, what, some of this is true, but a lot of this, or some of this is true, and some of this is things that I just, wanted to add to it. So that's a good way to put it.
And I like Kanisha's approach. Hers is about her experiences, so she can be as free as she wants to,
Right.
sharing her experiences. She's not bringing in other people. I'm assuming, am I right, Kanisha?
That's correct.
In these prayers to God, it's really about her and what she's experiencing or has experienced, and seeking clarity around that, versus the person who's just got to get out their experiences that involve other people, and you may need to seek legal counsel about whether that's appropriate, and how it might position other people in, or in what light it might cast another person in the eyes of the public.
Right. Yes. Well, this was good. So I do want to just back into a little bit of how we can use AI in the process. And one of the first things that come to my mind, and actually I actually did it with one of my clients, is that sometimes you have the general idea of what it is that you want to get out, what it is that you want to speak. So one of the things that we did was we kind of just typed in a summary of what the book was, and then asked AI to give us chapters, because again, sometimes our minds have the big picture, but to be able to break it down into actual like chapter topics is something that I think you can would be a good start to use AI, and then you actually go in and write the chapters yourself. But at least saying, okay, you know what, I have the big picture. If it's a book about gardening, I want to write an intro to gardening book, and ask AI, give me 10 chapters that the person who has no idea about gardening should know about. And then once it gives you the chapter like themes, then you actually take that and write the book, or write each chapter, and then kind of go from there. So that's just one way that I say that it could be used. Do y'all have any other tools or ideas for it?
So you're saying the AI gives you the book titles,
just not the chapter titles, but just like what should the chapter be about, the theme of the chapter. Does that make sense?
So you give AI the summary.
I give AI the summary or the gist of what the book should be, or what it's going to be about, and then just asking it to give me 10 chapter ideas or chapter themes. And if I'm totally off, like, let me know, because I'm thinking.
And then you write to those themes.
And I write to those themes of the chapters. Yes.
Okay.
And that's just one way I think about it.
So you're really not using the content.
Yeah, it's not giving me any verbiage.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not giving me any verbiage. It's just giving me, like, it would say, like, the first thing to gardening would be to get your tools. And then I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Let me write a whole chapter about what type of tools you need as a gardener, and those type things.
I don't see that as a problem. One of the things I noticed about AI is, now I'm sure it's gotten a whole lot more sophisticated when I noticed this. But I remember a friend sending me a business plan, and he said, I'm going to submit this for grant. And I immediately said to him, you didn't write that. I said, that's generated, right? And so he said, how did you know? I said, AI. Now, again, there are people who are diehard AIs, right? Don't come for me. I'm right. What at that time, and again, this was not the paid version, it just lacked originality.
Right.
I started to see words that were used over and over again. One word was, noticing the landscape of this. And I would say, is that the only word you can use?
Right.
And so there were words that were repeated in, in particular pieces of work that I was thinking, this is AI. Mm-hmm. And for me, I like being able to, I like originality,
Yeah.
right? I remember when we were in contests, that was a thing that we were judged on. Originality, right? Creativity. And so however, I will say that I have used AI to help prompt, if I just want another word, what word can I use differently? And I found that for me, that AI would give me better synonyms than Google. I remember I would go to Google, right? Or, I'm in a Word document and I'd ask for a synonym for this or synonym for that.
Right.
I found that AI's words, I like them better. And I didn't think about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I do actually use AI sometimes just as it could be a thought generator.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wrap words around the thought.
Right.
So I use it differently. But I did just take a AI workshop. Shout out to Dr. Marquita Blades. And she showed me some very different ways that you can use AI that I had not known in the past for imaging, for things like social media content. So not just AI in terms of ChatGPT, but AI on Canva.
Yeah.
So there are different platforms that use it and a whole lot of uses. I took Alicia Little's class. She also, it's expansive, the usage for AI. And I hadn't touched the surface. But I would encourage, maintain your originality.
Yes.
If you use it to spark thought, then you wrap some words around that thought or get with somebody who can, instead of just solely relying on AI. And then we become non-thinkers, a non-thinking society.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I like it. I like AI for taking your original content and just either not really expanding it, but like this podcast, right? So instead of me listening to the podcast and transcribe it myself, like this is our content. So I would just put it in an AI to take the words, my original, not change it, but just put it in a Word document and timestamping it. So it would timestamp it. But then you can take this podcast and literally turn this podcast into chapters. So what AI would do was take our content. This is our original. They're not changing it. They're just going to break it down and say, like, the first part you talked about AI, that should be a chapter. The second part, you talked about self-publishing, that could be a chapter. The third part you talked about God in your writing process, that should be a chapter. So it's taking our original content and just breaking it up into parts that we wouldn't have thought to break it up into.
To understand,
organize. Yeah, that's how I like using AI. It's not where it's taking anybody else's content and like putting it into what I'm thinking, but it's taking my content and just breaking up my content in a way that I wouldn't have thought to break it up my own words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the organizational part of it.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a whole nother podcast. AI, right? AI and publishing content. I love that.
Yeah.
So I do think it's important to your point that when it comes time to publish something, you don't want AI to create your thoughts or to create the book for you, but you can use it to take your original thoughts and format it so that nobody can find that anywhere else. It's not like they can go and Google and say, oh, you took this from somebody else's book. No, it was your original thought. AI is putting it into a chronological order that you may not have thought of. And then you can publish that because it doesn't belong to anybody else. It is your information.
Right.
Yeah, I have a friend who actually uses it for editing, kind of what you're talking about, formatting, but being specific to what type editing she wants, whether it's organizing it in chronological order, if she's taking the information. So there are multiple uses of it, and I do support that.
Yes. All right. So, like I said, I love the conversation, and we actually, to the point, we have so many pieces of this that we can actually go and make to its own podcast conversation. But what I want for you, ladies, to do right now is just leave us with some like last thoughts and things that you would encourage other people, other women out there who are thinking about getting this book out of them. Like, just give us some words of encouragement, some things that you would like to leave us with. And also, while you're doing that, let us know where we can find you, where we can find your book, where we can find any of the upcoming courses and tools that you have already in place for other people. And we also will, when we get this out within the next few weeks, we're going to make sure that we link everybody to everything that you have going on. But go ahead and verbally let us know, shout it to the mountaintops. Where can we find you? And what do you want to leave as the last words for today?
I believe for those readers or those viewers that are inspired to publish their books, just know that it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. To keep pressing towards the goal. Don't be afraid to cast all your cares unto God and let Him lead and guide you. And I promise you, what He has for you, it is for you, and He will provide every resource that you need to allow you to become a self-published author or to have your book published. He will lead you to the right people. Just pray about everything. My name is Kanisha Graham. You can find me on social media on Facebook by Kanisha Graham. You can find me on IG by _Kanisha Graham. 25 Prayers That Changed My Life is available on Amazon. Also, you can find me on Eventbrite by Kanisha Graham, and there you will find all of the upcoming events. Thank you so very much for having me on Point Blank Period podcast.
Thank you, Kanisha. And to that, I would add or reiterate, when you get where you're supposed to be, then everything you need will be provided for you. God will ensure that. I also encourage you just to get it out. Whatever are the tools that you have, whether it's your desktop, whether it's your laptop, whether it's your cell phone, get it out. And it doesn't all come at one setting. That sometimes you think about your story and you say, you know what, let me just talk about it today. And I'm just going to talk 10 minutes. If you talk 20 minutes in your cell phone on a single topic, you'd be surprised of how many pages of your manuscript you've actually produced. So get it out. And again, it is a journey. It doesn't come out in one setting. You don't have to try to drink the river. Sometimes you drink the river in one gulp. Sometimes you have to take it sip by sip. And the same goes for writing your story. So it doesn't come all out at the same time. But as you continue to work on it, as you continue to get it out, you will find that in not many days, you will have the manuscript of your dreams. I am Dr. Alicia Ritchie. I can be found on Amazon by way of my book, Who Wants Watermelon for Breakfast? Business Principles to Profit Your Everyday Life. My website is watermelonforbreakfast.com. I'm also on social media, Facebook, Alicia D. Ritchie. I'm on LinkedIn, Alicia D. Ritchie, and Instagram, A Rich Doc. That's ARITCHDOC, A Rich Doc. And if you see my name, it is spelled with a T. And I also have, for your information, an upcoming Writers Boot Camp. There's a virtual and in-person option. You can go to my website, arichenterprise.com. That's ARITCH, enterprise.com/I wrote it. I'd love to have you in my class and to help you produce that manuscript that you have been sitting on, but God is ready to get it out to the masses. Thank you for having me on Point Blank Period. It has been my absolute pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you, ladies, both. Like I said, we probably could go another hour and a half because I do have more questions, but we definitely have to make sure we have you back on because this is a very big thing that, so, and I'll leave everybody with this. So getting this year, God has provided us the opportunity to get back into something that Lancer and I love to do, which is branding and marketing for other companies. And so one of our clients that I'm really excited about is a funeral home, right? And so people are like, how are you excited to help with branding and marketing for a funeral home? You know why? It's because every time I think about how much money is going down into the grave each and every day by people who haven't gotten out the fullest potential of what they have inside of them. And, you know, a lot of times I often think about, God, you know, that person should have wrote a book because their life was just that amazing. Or, you know, that person should have wrote a book because all of the things that they have gone through, I know their stories would have helped somebody else. Like when you really sit there and you read somebody's obituary and you read things that they have gone through and the things that they had overcome and experienced, that should have been left for somebody hundreds of years later to read and to be able to have and to be able to be inspired by. Because that's one thing that we didn't talk about, the importance of writing and documenting our lives and our stories and our processes, is because somebody years and thousands of years from now will go back and find these pieces of materials that we're leaving, right? I think about people that who are like going back and going into like the pyramids and, you know, all of the finding the tablets that were created for, you know, thousands of years ago, hundreds and thousands of years ago. Like, to be able to go back and have access to that information, we no longer have to keep recreating the wheel. We can use from what like a pivot point or a jump off point of where somebody else has come from. And we can't do that if we don't have it written down. God says, write the vision down and make it plain. I also think that we should write our story down, make it plain so that other people can have that to go off of too. So thank you so much. That is what, like I said, I want to leave you guys with is to be, we all are going to leave here at some point. Do not leave here without fulfilling what God has given to you. If you know that you have been called to write a story, write your story, tell a story, even when it comes to fiction, it could be writing something that's just going to inspire somebody to imagine more. That's what those books do to me, is just help me to just continue my creativeness, to be able to help me with my imagination. That's what those type of books do to me. So I just encourage you, like I said, to get what it is out of you onto paper and out into the universe so that others can have access to it. What about you, Christy?
I think you guys have wrapped it up perfectly. I love and I appreciate you sharing your stories, both aspects of it. People can walk away knowing that there isn't one set way to do it, but just to get it done, and that the world is waiting for you. There is somebody whose next step in life is being on hold because you aren't putting your thoughts on paper for them to be able to open it and read it and move forward. And so with that being said, I'm ready to go back and watch the replay and take my notes and get my words on paper because I'm holding up somebody's blessing by not fulfilling that journey for myself. So thank you, ladies. I appreciate you. You've already changed a life just by coming on here today and sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank
you
you
so much.
For everybody who is with us, make sure that y'all share this out. Make sure that you're subscribed on our YouTube channel, Point Blank Period Podcast. We love and we appreciate you. Thank you so much for y'all joining in the conversation. We see all your comments that are coming in. We definitely appreciate it. We know that the things that have been shared today is going on fertile ground. So we are asking you to get out there, write that book, make it happen. The whole month of May, we are pushing you to write that book. Get it out of you. So thank you. Until the next time, stay tuned to Point Blank Period. Make sure you're following us on all things social. And we look forward to our next conversation. Yeah, have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.